football stream in a while. I'm going to do one today about the bowl games and the postseason of college football this year. A lot of great bowl games to watch, especially this past week. I'm just going to go over some of the more important ones in the New Year's Six and the National Championship, college football playoff, all of those. Not the no-name bowl games as much. Um, there were some very good ones. I'll start with the New Year's Six, looking down here. The first one I have listed is UCF and LSU. Now that was an interesting game because UCF, they'd won 25 games in a row. Uh, they're saying they should have been in the playoff. They're one of the best teams in the country, but they're without McKenzie Milton going up against a stout LSU defense. However, that LSU defense was missing some of their starters and missing some of their key players, including Greedy Williams. So that's kind of even, maybe. But this game ends up, LSU wins this one 40-32. UCF should have had that onside kick, and who knows what would have happened then. I thought UCF had a lot of opportunities to win that game or get close. They had a drop 75-yard touchdown pass, a bunch of drop passes, missed throws from the quarterback. They didn't deserve to win. They missed a lot of opportunities against an LSU secondary. They could have very easily won that. Their defense gave up a lot of yards, but they stiffened in the red zone. They did give up 394 passing yards to Burrow, his career high, but they did somewhat shut down the LSU running game. It appeared that was their goal, and they did that mostly pretty well. UCF defense has never been good, so not a horrible performance from them, but not great. Number 7, Michigan, and number 10, Florida. This was a huge surprise to me. I was expecting Michigan to win this one. Be a pretty close game, but Michigan had looked like a pretty good team for most of the year. But that Michigan team didn't show up. Shea Patterson had no time to throw the football. The running game could not do anything. And Florida demolished Michigan by 26. I believe it was 41-15. That was not a close game. Florida looked very good. Felipe Franks didn't put up a ton of passing yards, but he did rush the football very well, had a rushing touchdown. They ran the football very well, and just all around great football from the Gators. They look very impressive. Dan Mullen did a very good job as they finished this year 10-3 and win. I think that was a New Year's Six bowl, if I remember correctly, but Penn State and Kentucky. This was a surprise to me as well. I expected Penn State to win by about 1 to 2 touchdowns. I didn't expect Kentucky to get a lot on offense, but Kentucky, they really didn't get a ton on offense, but they were able to score 27 points on Penn State. Benny Snell was fantastic as usual. He is one of the best players Kentucky has ever had. Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job, and Kentucky wins this one 27-24. McSorley wills them closer, wills them back in the game, but it's just not enough eventually. People will question James Franklin's decision to go for it to not go for it on 4th down in the red zone. He kicked the field goal, the conservative approach, relying on the defense, but Benny Snell kept getting first downs when they needed it to seal the game. And Kentucky, a winner in the New Year's Six bowl for the first time in, well, definitely not in my lifetime, that's for sure. Ohio State and Washington. I was expecting Ohio State to kind of win this one handily, and it looked like that. It was 21-3 at halftime, and the Washington got the ball first in the second half, punted. Then Ohio State got the football, drove right down the field. It was 28-3, just like that. But Washington goes on a long drive that took up a lot of the third quarter and some of the fourth, and they were able to get a touchdown to make it 28-10, make it a game. And then from that point on, Ohio State could not move the football. They could not score. And it took a little bit, but a drive or two later, Washington gets another touchdown, and it's 28-17. Then with around a minute to go, under a minute, I believe, Washington is driving. Some great throws from Jake Browning, who threw for over 300 yards today, and Myles Gaskin ran for over 100. They played okay on offense, especially in the second half. Pretty well, just not enough. But Browning is able to connect from Gaskin out of the backfield to make it 28-23. The two-point conversion failed, and they needed an onside kick. They just didn't get it, didn't get the bounce. Ohio State hangs on. Urban Meyer wins in his final game at Ohio State. He says it's his final game of his career. I'm not so sure about that. He's off to be the assistant athletic director at Ohio State. So that was a very entertaining game. And then the Sugar Bowl, the last New Year's Six Bowl. This one I was very disappointed in. Georgia and Texas. I figured Georgia would run away with this one. To me, Georgia is 2 times the better team. I still think they're a better team, but Texas just manhandled them for most of the game. It ended up being a 7-point game, and an onside kick from Georgia was not successful. Georgia's defense was okay, average. They were missing their best defensive player, but Ellinger was able to run the football pretty well. They didn't get a ton of yards, Texas didn't, but they were able to score 4 touchdowns, which was enough, as their defense played lights out. Jake Fromm didn't play well for most of the game. The last drive or two he did, but that was garbage time, Didn't really, well, not garbage time, but, just really didn't play that well. The running game was terrible for Georgia, and so Texas wins this one by 7. Some of the other notable games I'm looking on this list, Michigan State and Oregon. This was a non-entertaining game. Michigan State piles up 344 yards of offense, I believe, but they only score 6 points and lose 7-6 to Oregon. Oregon has just over 208. Herbert couldn't do anything for Oregon on offense, but Oregon wins this one 7-6. And wow, Michigan State's offense is struggling to put up points. They need help. Let's look. Purdue and Auburn. This was a blowout here. I believe it was 63-14. Very huge blowout there. I don't know what the deal was. Purdue's defense could not stop Auburn's running game or the passing game. Just a huge blowout. It was a very big surprise for me. Washington State and Iowa State, that ended up being a very close game. Some controversial calls there. It was a weird game, but Washington State does hold on in the end against Iowa State. Iowa State's Big 12 defense was able to stop Washington State's passing attack mostly. Gardner Minshew didn't do a ton there. West Virginia and Syracuse. West Virginia was missing Will Grier. At the time that I picked this game, I did not know Grier wasn't playing. So I would have definitely picked Syracuse if I had known that. Syracuse gets the win. They win by 11 points, I believe. Eric Dungy's good enough to get that win. Let's see. Missouri and Oklahoma State. That was a very weird game for me. I was not expecting Oklahoma State to win this. I still think Missouri's the better team, but they dug themselves too much of a hole. They outgained Oklahoma State by a lot of yards and even won the turnover battle, but somehow, some way, they're not able to win this game. Drew Lock throws for close to 400 yards. They have a good running game in this one, and Drew Lock came up a yard short on 4th and 1 inside the red zone. A touchdown was going to win it for Missouri, and it just looked like nothing was going to stop them. But on 3rd and 1, they were stuffed. On 4th and 1, they were stuffed as Locke tried to run to the outside, and he just could not quite get the edge. He gave it all he had, but it wasn't enough, and Oklahoma State hangs on. Cornelius throws 2 picks for Oklahoma State, but he does just enough. The offense does just enough to get the win. The defense comes up big, which is not what you normally say. All in all, I was just over 500 in my bowl picks. I was doing very, very well in them until, let's see, it was around the Temple and Duke game that I started going downhill with my picks. There were some picks that, looking back, I have no idea why I made, but I did, just how it goes. But anyway, I was at my grandparents' house watching some football and hanging out over the holidays. So if you're watching this, Grandpop, I hope you enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and God bless you all.